Streaming live, this is NewsNation Now.
Welcome into NewsNation Now. I am Aaron Nolan. The big story of the day, you see it on your screen. We're talking about Mavs owner Mark Cuban. The NBA team out of Dallas has decided not to play the national anthem before games this year. Want to get right into the information on this. NBA analyst, sports analyst Eric Mitchell joins us now. Eric, this was what is trending right now on all social media pages and our NewsNationNow.com website as well. What is your first thoughts as a sports guy when you hear the news that a professional sports team in America is no longer playing the national anthem before games?
Whew, that's a doozy of a question, Aaron. It's interesting. Number one, they haven't played it the entire season so far. They had their first fans in the stadium just the other night. So nobody really knew because nobody's there for the national anthem. To me, it just is another political thing. That's just what it screams to me. Every time we talk about kneeling in America, it becomes a very big political issue, especially with our pro sports teams. And we all know Mark Cuban is not afraid to shy away from any kind of controversy or stand up for social justice, which is something that Mark Cuban has been a big advocate of since the NBA bubble last July.
So one thing that I've read on social media, the responses from fans, from people who are social media users, is that this has become a tradition, and maybe it's, you mentioned political, some people on social media saying maybe it's not as political as we think, it's just the tradition of it and dropping the tradition. And then, of course, there is the patriotism that goes along with that. What's your thoughts there on just the tradition being changed? And I think it hit fans hard because there was really no notification of it.
You know, you're right, Eric, but we all have to remember, back in the day, long before you or I were even born, they used to play the national anthem in movie theaters and before concerts. So that went away, and I wasn't alive to know if there was controversy during that time, but traditions like that have gone away. And to this point, you know, it's just, this might be something new that's going to go across the league as we go across and see it, because the national anthem has become this political, point that we don't want it to be. None of us like watching sports and making it political. So this, to me, is just maybe a change in the game, a change in the tradition, as it is 2021. Just like in the 50s, they moved away from playing the national anthem and all these other songs that they play before you would, even standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. So this is different now. So this could be something, a new trend. I don't think it has anything to do with politics. I think Mark Cuban just wanted to do this because he hasn't done it before and speed up the process of the game. Which is something that Adam Silver has talked about a lot. How do we speed up the process? Now, this can be taken in a completely other context and, of course, make it a patriotic thing. But again, to me, this is just Mark Cuban being Mark Cuban, and an interesting change to a league that leads the way in anything that is talking about social justice or even changing traditions. The NBA has always been the leader in that.
Eric Mitchell joins us here live on NewsNationNow.com. We're also broadcasting across the nation on Facebook pages. Maybe it's your favorite local television's Facebook page, as well as the News Nation Facebook page. And I want to read a few comments here that we have gotten on our Facebook page, Eric. Ronald says it's BS. Elizabeth says it's disgusting. Lori, shameful. It seems to be one-sided here on the opinions now. But Derek's comment is interesting, and I want to get your response here. And we do know that Mr. Cuban did reach out to the NBA offices to clear this before he made this decision. But Derek said, bold move by Cuban. Do you agree in that it was a bold move as being the first in the NBA, maybe the first in professional sports in America to choose and to opt not to play the national anthem?
Absolutely. This is Mark Cuban is like I said before, in July of 2020, Mark Cuban was the first one to speak up for his players to talk about he would allow kneeling, he would allow things that traditionally were not allowed in the collective bargaining agreement with the NBA. Traditionally, players stand and there was no if, and, buts, or whys. You just did it. And Cuban and all the other owners, but Cuban led the way. So this is another move by Mark Cuban, which I think is his move, his choice, his team, and if the players all agree with it. And it's not like he didn't tell anybody. He went through the proper channels. He doesn't have to ask the general public if they approve. He has to ask the league office, and he did just that.
Are you surprised by the outcry right now?
I'm never surprised. As a Marine Corps veteran, the kneeling subject has come up, obviously, with the San Francisco quarterback Colin Kaepernick and that issue in the NFL. So kneeling's it's a topic that seems to be a very hot button, And of course, being a veteran, it becomes an America issue quite quickly. And it's always funny to see the responses when most veterans are like, okay, well, we know what the Constitution says, so we're cool with whatever people want to do. You're allowed to express your freedom. So it's an interesting, it's just always going to offend somebody. I don't think we can do anything anymore in 2020, 2021 that doesn't somehow offend somebody. I mean, the Super Bowl offended people, so
Eric, you
just the world we
mentioned
live in.
your service, and first things first, I want to thank you for your service to our country. Secondly, are you able to compartmentalize the respect for the country that you no doubt have by serving our country and then looking at professional sports teams choosing not to play the national anthem? From purely a veteran standpoint, what is your thought process?
To me, absolutely, I can compartmentalize this. Number one, this does not say that you standing for the national anthem, kneeling for the national anthem has nothing to do with patriotism. As a Marine, I understand what I defended. My oath of office didn't say I get to pick and choose. Our freedoms are guaranteed by people who have lost their lives, and we have many cemeteries full of fallen warriors that, you know what, if we're really going to bicker over whether you stand, it's like, do people put their hand over their heart or not for the national anthem? We could fine tooth comb pick on anything. To me as a vet, it's not a big deal. It doesn't offend me. It doesn't. People are exercising their constitutional rights, and I think people have a right to do that. I'm not a political analyst. I'm a sports guy, but that's my 2 cents when it comes to it. As a veteran, I believe that they're exercising their rights, showing that we live in this country. And what's amazing is this team isn't just full of Americans. It is a mix. Once again, the NBA being the melting pot of just all cultures. The players came together and made this decision, and we've seen this. The players are kneeling across the league when it comes to this, making a stance on Black Lives Matter, making a stance on on social justice issues. They're not making election issues. They're making social issues that should be out there. So them deciding not to do the national anthem, it doesn't offend me either way, because honestly, I'm not in the arena. I don't get to go watch my Portland Trailblazers whenever I want because of COVID. So if they're not playing the national anthem, I'm not triggered. And honestly, it just speeds up the game. And I know that sounds horrible, but as a fan of the game, the national anthem is a good thing to hear. But if it's time for, if they only play it during the NBA Finals, I wouldn't be offended.
You bring up something very interesting. If you're just now joining us, Eric Mitchell joins us, an NBA analyst, talking about the Dallas Mavericks' decision to no longer play the national anthem before games. And you bring up that the NBA is a melting pot. It is no doubt something that international players have become coveted. They have become very good. And on this team alone, you've got Kristaps Porzingis as well as Luka Doncic, who are superstars in this league, neither of which were born here in the United States.
Yep. And that's everywhere. You even look, I'll go back, me, the Blazer fan, I always will go back to the Trailblazers, but you're right about Luka and, the other players on the Mavs, but this goes league wide. Look at, you just look at Enes Kanter over on the Blazers, right? A Turkish national who still has issues traveling abroad because, the battles that go on with the Turkish prime minister, that they have no love for each other, obviously. But this is something that they all stand for, loving America. But this doesn't make a difference for them whether they hear the national anthem or not. This is what these players are focused on the game. They're not, okay, do you line up and have to do all of the stuff that goes through this? Because they're ready to speed up the game anyways. It's what they've been talking about. And right now, most teams don't have fans. So I think this becomes an issue for the Mavericks because their first game was with the Timberwolves that fans were allowed inside their arena. It'll be interesting to see how the fans react inside the arena. That's what I'm looking for if this becomes that issue. But these foreign players, they're just going to go play basketball. They love being in America. They love the freedom. You'll see all these players talk about it, all the greats. We even have two. You have Luka and Jokic out of Denver as the leading candidates for MVP this year. Not to go even with our MVP last year, the Greek Freak. This is just the league, but they all love our country. And the NBA, they always speak out. Let's go back to that. Look how they're talking about the All-Star game. These guys are outspoken, and they do controversial things. And at the end of the day, this is it's a tradition that's changing. And I think it's going to rub some people the wrong way, and other people are going to be like, hey, let's go. It's 2021, and this is, we're going to speed things up. But every time we'll go back to the 50s when we used to stand, or people used to stand for the national anthem in a movie theater. Can you imagine doing that now or at a rock concert?
Eric, is Mark Cuban the first of what will be many NBA teams and NBA owners that are choosing to not play the national anthem, or will he be the only NBA team owner that will not play the national anthem this season in the NBA?
I love that question. I believe that Mark will be joined by a few owners. I've already heard some rumblings over the last 24 hours. The other owners plan to do the same things as their teams hit home markets again and make this as not a requirement for them to have to go through this. I do think some markets will, because of where they're located, will not do this. But again, it won't be universal across the board, but it will be. I think by next season, it will be adopted by all of them as they go through. But for this remaining season we have here, you're going to see a smattering of teams. Depends on their markets and where they're at. I can start listing cities that where you'll see the teams, but Mark Cuban will be far from alone in doing this. He'll be the first, which is what Mark always wants, be cutting edge Mark, but he will be joined by several amazing ownerships that are going to stand with Mark Cuban.
What are players going to say? We have not heard from Dallas Mavericks players yet. Again, this was adopted for this season. They're in Dallas, that Mark Cuban has chosen not to play the national anthem. We have not heard anything from fans because fans haven't been allowed in. But what are players going to say if the national anthem is not played prior to games? Is it going to affect the LeBron James, the Kyrie Irvings, the Kevin Durants, the Steph Currys? Will those players have issue with not hearing the national anthem before they take the court?
No, because if you watch a lot of those players, and I'm not saying that they're not patriotic when I say this, but if you watch a lot of these players, well, back in the day when we could watch them, this is what I'm going off of, is last season inside arenas when the lights are off and they're wrapping up the national anthem. Those players are moving around anyways. They're keeping warm. They're stretching because they know the tip-off's coming right after that moment. So it's not going to make a difference to these players. It's not going to mess up their pregame routine. It's going to go from team announcements and who's playing to moving to tip-off, which is something that they did in high school, something that they did in college. Not all colleges play national anthems. This isn't a requirement either in the NBA. So for them, it's going to be business as usual. They're focused on playing on the court. They're not focused on all of the pomp and circumstance that is the NBA pregame. Their traditions are they're stretching, they're doing that. You see that people got on LeBron last year and even Steph Curry for as the anthem or even as the anthem was going, they move away and start heading over behind the scenes and, stretch out because they're still tight. So for them, it's all about game time. This will not affect them in any which way or means. Some players, actually, the players I'm thinking of actually are injured, so they might not actually have anything to say because they're not standing on the court. Only a few players will actually come out probably offended by this. But I believe a large part of the NBA will be happy that this actually occurred.
Very quickly, Eric, we've got to go. Final question for you. You mentioned location in the United States. Are you surprised that the first team to stop playing the national anthem is located in the heart of Texas?
I actually am. I thought it was funny but then again, it's Mark. But it's like, okay, this is Texas. It's just different, right? I would not think Texas would lead the way. I would actually give it to several other teams in the league to be the first. I'm actually shocked it didn't come out of LA, to be brutally honest. But it is interesting. It's Mark, but Mark leads the way. This is Mark Cuban. If you've ever spent a moment with Mark Cuban, this is Cuban's way. This is his team. He absolutely loves the game, but he also absolutely has no problem putting his opinions out there for the world to see that what he stands for. This is his basketball team. He cleared it with his teams. He cleared it with the league office. So it's his heart. He did everything he should have. And if people don't like him, well, you see him on Twitter. He doesn't really care if people like or dislike him.
Eric Mitchell, thank you so much for spending time here on News Nation Now.
Okay, thanks, Aaron.
All right, Eric Mitchell chiming in on what is one of the hottest stories right now, not only on social media, but also on our website, NewsNationNow.com. I encourage you to join us on NewsNation and NewsNationNow.com. And if you don't know how to watch our brand new national newscast that is right down the middle, we're not going to steer you to the left or the right. We're going to present these stories and let you choose how you feel about the news. Go to our website. It is NewsNationNow.com. On the top right-hand corner, enter your zip code right there in the search engine, and we'll tell you exactly how to watch us starting tonight, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock Central. I'm Aaron Nolan. Have a fantastic day. We'll see you right back here a little bit later.